Today I want to go through a really quick demonstration of the rules to Broken Contract. We're going to start off by going over the stat cards. Each character has their own unique stat card that allows them to place pieces of equipment in various positions, such as in hand, in both hands, on person, or concealed. It also keeps track of their wounds and actions that they have remaining, as well as has all of their statistics. There's also a spot for a reroll and initiative draw, and we'll get to that in a second. The characters that we have in play are Nels the Sneak, Tress the Gen Mod Brute, and Officer Hickley the Prod Goon. They are each equipped. Nels has a shovel and a concealed knife. Tress has his rock saw and the Gen Mod apparatus that pumps him full of adrenaline and steroids. This piece of equipment can restart his heart if he were to be rendered unconscious or die. And then we've got Officer Hickley with the shock baton and restraints. For this demonstration, we're going to do just a really basic scenario. Nels and Tress are trying to escape through a secret tunnel. The secret tunnel is actually hidden right here by these iron panels. And Officer Hickley hears movement in the hallway and moves to intercept. Okay, so in order to carry out the objective, in order to get through those iron panels, Tress or Nels need to pry them open using a strength check. Officer Hickley is just trying to apprehend as many of them as possible. To get things started, I've already dealt out the initiative cards. They have been dealt out. Nels is going to go second, Tress is going to go first, and Officer Hickley is going to go third. To begin turn one, we're going to look at the actions and interruptions. We've got move actions, combat actions, and utility actions. Move actions, there's walk, there's hustle, there's rush. These three different types of move actions. A walk is a basic 3-inch move based upon the move stat on each character card. Hustle is a D3 move. It's essentially a cautious jog. And then rush is a full-on sprint. Combat actions, there are things like strike, shoot, push, a number of different options that you can tap into. And then utility actions are the type of actions that involve things like trying to open this iron panel or carry another character, focus to have a better shot at carrying something out, or apply restraints. So those are all utility actions. Tress is actually going to start his turn with a move action. He is going to move 3 inches in order to get into a better position. Which, now that Tress is in a much better position, he is actually going to rush forward in order to get to that panel. So I'm going to roll a d6, because a rush is a d6 move, and he's going to move forward 3 inches. He's got one action left, so he is going to now perform a hustle. The move actions each can only be performed once per turn, which is why he is going from a walk to a rush to a hustle. So he's going to hustle d3 inches, and he moves forward 1 more inch. So he's almost there. Nels the Sneak is going to go second. Now, looking at the situation, Tress is their best chance at prying open that iron panel. So Nels is going to need to move forward and try and intercept Officer Hickley. So Nels is going to first do his rush move in order to get it out of the way in case something goes wrong. And invariably, something went wrong. So when you roll a 1 on a rush, it's what's called a stumble. They're breaking into a sprint, and in action movie glory, they trip over a rock that's laying on the ground, and they go stumbling forward. So he moves forward d3 inches, so he's going to move forward 2 inches. And then I have to make an agility check to see if he stays upright. And the agility check is going to burn one of his actions. Agility check, he needed a 5 or 6 according to his statistics, So unfortunately, he is going to go prone. We've used 2 of his actions, 1 to rush and then 1 to try and make that agility check. So far, things are not going good for Nels. He's going to use his last action to stand back up. Officer Hickley is going to first move 3 inches in order to get closer and ensure that he is within rush range. And then for his second action, he is going to rush. And he also stumbles. So he's going to move forward D3 inches. He moves forward 3 inches, or 2 inches. And he makes his agility check, and he succeeds. So that is the end of his turn because the agility check burned his final action. We launch into turn 2, and the initiative cards have already been dealt out. Officer Hickley is going first, Trust is going second, and he has been dealt the reroll, and then Nels is going third. Okay, so Officer Hickley seizes his initiative. He is actually going to try and rush into Trest. He's going to move forward 2 inches. 2 inches is just enough. He gets into base-to-base contact with Trest. So now he is going to be able to make a strike. He is going to swing his shock baton, and he is going to hit Trest on a 5 or 6. He successfully hits, and a 6 is a critical hit. This only matters if he succeeds in wounding. Now he must make a strength roll. The strength of the shock baton is 4, so he needs a 4, 5, or 6 in order to injure Trest. 2, he fails to injure Trest, and that action has failed. So finally, with his third action, he is going to try and make a swing again, but this time, because he is no longer on the rush, Trest is going to be able to swing back. So Trest burns an action. He swings back. He is going to hit on a 5 or 6. He critically fumbles, except that he has got the reroll, so we're going to burn the reroll. And he's going to re-roll that. And he critically fumbles again. Now there is a chart for the fumbles. We're not going to get into that at the moment. I'm just going to roll to see what the result is. 5, he burned an additional action. So he's fumbling around with his rock saw. Things aren't working out as planned. And so Officer Hickley successfully is going to be able to make his strike. He hits critically, needs a 4, 5, or 6 in order to wound, and fails to wound again. Now we go to Trest. Trest has burned 2 of his actions in his fumbled attempt to defend himself. He does have 1 action remaining, so he is going to try and strike at Officer Hickley, and he needs a 5 or 6 because of his melee stat. He successfully hits. He is going to roll to wound. The rock saw needs a 3 or better. So roll 3 or better, and he successfully wounds Officer Hickley. Officer Hickley is going to sustain damage. The rock saw does 2d3 wounds. 1 wound, and then an additional 2 wounds. So Officer Hickley just sustained 3 wounds, putting him at 0. So Officer Hickley goes down. He is laying unconscious, and then we're going to go to Nels. So now we go to Nels. This is his moment to shine and do the types of things that he does best. He is going to rush forward 6 inches. And now he is going to walk into base-to-base contact with Officer Hickley. Next thing he is going to do is steal Officer Hickley's shock baton. Now, Officer Hickley's shock baton is not concealed on him, so he can just take it right off of him. And he's going to put that in hand, dropping his shovel to the ground. Next, before we move on to turn 3, we're going to talk about the recovery phase. At the end of every turn, there is the opportunity for those that are unconscious or shocked to try and snap out of it or recover. So, Officer Hickley's recovery is 5. That's one of his stats on his card. He's going to roll and he needs a 5 or 6 in order to regain a wound. A 1, which is the worst possible thing, because in Broken Contract, 1s are almost universally bad on D6 rolls. The 1 means that his condition has worsened, and now he is out of action. Turn 3 begins, and I've already dealt out the initiative cards. Officer Hickley is first, Nels is second, and Trest is third, and also drew the reroll. Turn 3 begins, and Officer Hickley is unconscious, so we're going to go straight to Nels. Nels is going to be a big jerk, and he is actually going to take the restraints off of Officer Hickley, and that takes 1 action. He is then going to put the restraints on Officer Hickley, so that Officer Hickley is in restraints, and then he is going to use his third and final action to move 3 inches to get into a better position to escape once Trest opens the iron panel. Trest's turn begins. He makes a 1-inch move forward in order to get into base to base with the iron panel. He then makes a strength check with his second action in order to try and pry it open. Now this is on his base strength, and he needs a 4, 5, or 6. He succeeds, so he pries the panel open, giving them enough space to squeeze through and get out. In his third and final action, he is going to rush through the opening, 2 inches, getting him just inside the entrance. Next, we go into the recovery phase for turn 3 to see what happens to Officer Hickley, to see if he snaps out of it, or starts to snap out of it. Make his recovery roll. He needs a 5 or 6. Another 1. His condition has worsened even further. Turn 4 begins, and Nels was dealt initiative first, and he got the reroll. Officer Hickley is to go second, but he is seriously injured, and Trest is going third. Looking at the circumstances, there is no way that Officer Hickley is going to be able to stop them from escaping, so on turn 4, the two of them escape and win the day.